It was a Thursday morning when the Nysc portal opened for registration. The whole neighborhood in Enugu was bustling with excitement. Everyone was talking about which state they would choose. I woke up early and rushed to a small cyber cafe near our street. The place was crowded. Young men and women with anxious eyes, some already sweating from the heat of the monitors and generators. I joined the queue, praying silently. When it was my turn, I filled the form with care. Under a preferred state of deployment, I typed Lagos in capital letters. I smiled as I clicked submit. Lagos meant opportunity, connection and exposure, and maybe a better life after service. Days later, when the call-up letter came out, I couldn't sleep. By midnight, I logged in using my phone, waiting for the page to load. My heart was beating fast. Then, when it finally appeared, I scrolled down to the line that said State of Deployment. What I saw was Ondo State. At first, I thought it was a mistake. At noon, I rushed to the cyber cafe. I refreshed the page again and again, but it didn't change. The letters took pen, Ondo State. I just sat there staring. The joy I felt earlier disappeared like smoke. Around me, people were shouting, Abuja, Lagos, Rivers State, hugging and laughing, celebrating. I just sat there, silent. God, why Ondo? I whispered. I don't know anyone there. A week later, I was in the morning bus heading to Akure, the capital of Ondo State. The journey was long, dusty, and filled with potholes. It was my first time traveling to the western part of Nigeria. Everyone around me spoke Yoruba, switched it to English only when necessary. I felt like a stranger in a new world. We arrived in Akure very late in the evening. From there, I boarded another bus to the orientation camp in Ikarakuku. The road twisted through hills and thick forest. When we reached the camp, the soldiers at the gate barked orders like they were recruiters in the army. Double up, move fast. That was my welcome to NYC life. Loud voices, confusions, and exhaustion. Camp life was a mixture of fun and frustration. The big would wake us by 4:30 a.m. and before dawn, we were already on the parade ground. We sang, marched, and shouted, Kopawi, till our throat went dry. The food was terrible, beans that looked like gravel, and path that tasted like water. But there was laughter, people fainting on parade, and waking up to drink sachet water, impromptu drama nights, and endless friendship stories. I met some good friends, Tunde from Lagos, Bless from Delta, and Zinam from Kaduna. They made the 2 weeks bearable. Still, I had one thing on my mind, redeployment. I planned leaving Ondo the moment camp ended. I didn't see myself surviving there. But when the redeployment list came out, my name wasn't there. My friend consoled me, but I was too broken. I called home, and my mom said, Nah, maybe there's a reason God kept you there. You will understand later. I didn't believe her. Not yet. After camp, I was posted to a small town called Idanre to teach English at the community secondary school. I had never heard of that place before. When I arrived, the sight took my breath away, not because of the beauty at first, but because of how rural it was. The town was surrounded by tall hills and red clay houses. The houses were small, the people simple. The school building was old, with cracked walls and broken windows. The staff room had only 2 chairs. When I entered the classroom for the first time, about 50 students stood up and chorused, Good morning, sir. Their voices echoed through the room. I looked at them, some barefoot, some holding torn notebooks, all eager. That day, I met Imole. She sat at the back, quiet and shy. Her uniform was faded, her boots half torn. When I asked them to write an essay titled, My dream. She wrote only one sentence. I want to be a nurse so I can help my mother who is sick. Her grammar was poor, but her heart was in that line. Something in me melted that day. Life in Idanre was not easy. My salary came late almost every month, and the small stipend from the school couldn't buy more than garri and bread. My lodge was a single room with a leaky roof. When it rained, I had to place buckets around the room to catch water. Sometimes I cooked firewood because kerosene was expensive. There was days I walked long distance to school under the hot sun, dust covering my shoes, sweat dripping down my back. I often felt lonely. No lights, no network, no comfort. My friends in Lagos posted pictures on social media, smiling in offices and cafes. I looked at them and sighed, wondering what crime I had committed to deserve this. But every morning, when I entered my classroom and saw those students waiting eagerly for me, something changed inside me. Their smiles gave me reasons to keep going. I started holding extra evening lessons under a mango tree behind the school. I didn't charge them, I just wanted them to learn. And there was always one person who never missed a day, Imole. She listened attentively, her eyes bright with hope. Her English improved little by little. She would smile shyly each time I praised her. One afternoon, the principal called me into his office. "Kopa Ikenna," she said, "our students have been failing English every year. WAEC is coming again. We need your help." I nodded, though I felt nervous. I accepted the challenge. From that day, I turned my evening into marathon revision sections. We solved past questions, practiced essays, and read comprehension passage aloud. I encouraged them, saying, "You can pass. You are smart enough." Some nights, I marked their scripts by candlelight. My eyes would burn, but I was happy. I was doing something meaningful. One evening, while I was teaching, Imole stayed behind after the others had left. She said softly, "Sir, when I become a nurse, I will come back and take care of people in this town." I smiled at her. "You will, Imole. You have the heart for it." That night, I prayed silently for her, that her dream would not die in that small town. Months later, the WAEC exam came and went. I continued teaching until it was time to round off my service year. I had grown attached to my students. They were no longer just learners. They were like family. One hot afternoon, I was resting in my room when the principal ran to my lodge, waving a paper. "Kopa, the results are out," he shouted. "Our student passed English. Even Imole got a B." For a moment, I could just... My eyes filled with tears. That evening, the whole community gathered to celebrate. Parents danced, teachers smiled, and the students surrounded me, clapping and singing. Imole came forward, holding her result sheet. Her eyes were wet with joy. "Thank you, sir," she said quietly. "You changed my life." I couldn't hold back the tears anymore. I just nodded and smiled. When my passing out parade came, the sky over Idanre was bright and blue. I stood with other coppers, holding my certificates proudly, yet my heart was heavy. As I prepared to leave, some of my students came to the motor park to see me off. Imole was among them. They handed me a small wrapped gift, a framed photo of the class. On it was written, "To our beloved Kopa Ikenna, thank you for teaching us to dream." As the bus started moving, I looked out of the window and saw them waving, smaller and smaller, until they disappeared behind the red hills. Tears rolled down my cheeks. My mother was right. God truly had a reason for keeping me there. Back home in Enugu, life moved on, but Idanre never left my heart. I often stared at the framed picture hanging on my wall, a reminder of where purpose found me. Sometimes I get phone calls from my former students. Imole calls occasionally too. She's now studying nursing in Akure, just like she dreamt. Whenever she calls, she says, "Sir, I will never forget you." I smiled and whisper, "It's what?" Ondo taught me humility, patience, and the true meaning of service. I went there as a frustrated copper, but returned as a fulfilled teacher. The moral lesson of this story, if there's one thing I learned, it's that destiny doesn't always follow our desires. Sometimes it takes us through strange lands, places we never planned for, to reveal the strength and purpose inside us. That's why in Ondo stains me forever. Idanre, with its rocky hills and humble people, will always be sacred memory. It was there that I learned that impact matters more than comfort, and that sometimes God's blessings comes wrapped in hardship. So whenever I remember that young girl named Imole and the laughter of those barefoot students under the mango tree, my Ondo story was never a mistake, it was destiny.